This episode of the podcast is the delightful Michaela Tyson. Michaela is a girl who is, on top of being actually quite funny, in love with horror films. So it didn't shock me one bit when I found out that she picked the Rob Zombie film from 2012, Lords of Salem. I remember liking this film, but not loving this film when I first saw it. And when I saw it again, it kind of held up to that exact same stature. And seems to with Michaela, too. We have a lot of positive things to say about this film, and it's an enjoyable, if be it hard to watch kind of film for the atmosphere it actually builds. But this podcast was anything but hard to listen to or hard to be a part of. This was a lot of fun. Give it a listen. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I'm going to stop asking you to like things, but I do want you to like this. And this is I Want to Like This, episode 19, Lords of Salem with Michaela Tyson. God. Okay, so I think we're going to be fine on this.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, she didn't like that. I wonder, she fights with Zach a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how this, but sometimes I like combativeness on the podcast,
right,
as long as it's a friendly discourse.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So it's
totally
cool.
Yeah.
Michaela Tyson, we're already recording.
All right.
Welcome to I Want to Like This.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a graphic designer. That's my day job, my Bruce Wayne side to my personality, you could say. But, you know.
It's your Clark Kent. Bruce Wayne
I
doesn't
know.
have a job.
That's true. Bruce Wayne kind of just gets away with everything. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, more of my Clark Kent, I guess you would say then. Yeah, definitely. That's like my main, takes up most of my lifetime. I'm just a rabid movie lover. I consider my specialty to be horror, which I know a lot of people think doesn't really register as good film, but
I hate the way. Okay, so my problems with horror movies nowadays is that they somewhere people lost the lessons of Wes Craven about making the protagonist actually likable.
Exactly.
That you want to watch the people that the story's about get killed.
Right.
And that's the problem. What Freddy Krueger did is Robert Englund is so charismatic. He flipped the switch on who people wanted. They now want the child molester to be the hero and kill people, and it's like, he's a fucking child molester and a demon. We want him to die, but people don't have that suspense for the characters anymore. Like in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, like everyone really cares, and they lose it.
Well, and unfortunately, like with the last 20 or so years in horror movies, it's gone to found footage, paranormal, and there's no like central character, like you said, to get attached to in those types of movies. And they're just played out jump scares, like just loud noises and
there's no style to those found footage ones. There's no
shaky
substance.
camera.
It's
That's
just,
the style.
This is what it would be like if it was real. Well, if it was real, you wouldn't be fucking filming it.
Exactly.
Like, if you're running from a ghost, you're not like sitting there with a camera. Oh shit! No. You're fucking. The camera's gone. You don't even think to pick up the camera.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's And being a horror fan nowadays, you have few and far between things to look for, like things to look forward to as far as movie releases. Yeah. So when they come out, it's like you either got to see it or you hope another one comes out next year. Yeah. Now with the Babadook and like It Follows,
the Babadook was amazing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that'll breathe some new life into it. You know,
they got something that these horror movies don't get, and that was characterization.
Right.
Like you cared about that mother's struggle.
Right. And it flipped, too. At the beginning, you're like, God, this kid, he just needs to die. He's so fucking annoying. Yes. And then it switches into mom. You're like, oh, my God, this bitch, what's her deal?
She's fucking crazy. Yeah. She's losing it.
Your allegiance just flies all around.
A product of that. Now you're worried about the child. Like with the scene with the dog.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's such a visceral
and you knew it was going to come because it was in the book. And you're like,
I didn't read the book because I was like, oh, there's a book?
There's like a scene where she's flipping through the pop-up book, though, and it shows her holding the dog.
That's right.
And you're like, oh, God.
There's a novel of the... No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the book where she sees her break the dog. She's terrified of the book, and she keeps trying to get away.
Right.
The book is a very Ouija board-esque quality that it just keeps coming back.
With these, like, creepy charcoal drawings by that, that movie was perfect.
All the pages are blank until it's foretold, like, this is what's going to happen next.
Right.
And it was such a great MacGuffin. Mm-hmm. And... I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to throw around a word like MacGuffin.
Yeah, go for it.
You're obviously not only a cinephile, but a horror movie cinephile.
Yes.
And you understand how it needs to be horrific and thrilling.
Right.
And not just schlock.
Yes. And, like, there is a place for the schlock. It has its place,
films.
but, yeah.
I will watch Toxic Avenger.
Right.
Till my eyes bleed.
But it has, it's one of those, you definitely have to be in the mood to watch something like that. And no one wants to go pay $15 to see a movie like that.
Well, also, Toxie's written well enough that I actually give a shit whether or not he wins.
Right.
Like, for all the shit people comment on Trauma, like, yeah, but they made a character that's identifiable.
They know their market and they corner it every time.
Yes.
So, and yeah, it just, if it follows and the Babadook hopefully can bring
Revamp
some more
that
people that care.
story,
Yeah.
Educated. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this makes perfect sense why you picked your film today.
Oh my God. Lords of Salem. Yeah.
You know what? Here's the thing. I haven't seen this movie since it came out.
Yeah.
I tried to rewatch it, but I didn't have enough time because it was a very busy weekend. I'm sorry to say.
Oh,
but I did
fine.
get back to my reading, and I watched as many clips in the trailers as I could find. And I remember just wanting to see stills of it because the stylization is I like this movie. I do like this movie. And I can understand why it's disappointing, but I do like it. So I was like, okay, I can't wait to hear what the horror fan, because I'm like, is she going to be the horror fan who's just like, slasher, Freddy's awesome, blah, 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 identify the villains? Or is she going to be the one who understands that there's a point to telling a story and why you have to identify with the hero, the protagonist? Right. And so far, you were okay, you get it. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. So the obvious why you look forward to this movie and why you got excited.
Yeah.
Say it in your own words. Why did you get excited about this movie?
Well, okay, so I actually stand behind a lot of Rob Zombie's horror movies because, I mean, okay, obviously he's not a classically trained director. Like, he just has a lot of money and wants to make movies, so he does, you know.
I always get iffy about the classically trained directors because that seems so pretentious.
Yeah. But he's the furthest thing from that, even still. And, like, I love Devil's Rejects. Even though I was like, okay, you really like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I get it, you know?
Yeah.
But the timeline was ambiguous. You were like, is this the 70s? Is it not? But it worked.
It feels out of place, but still relevant.
Yes, exactly. And House of a Thousand Corpses was all right. It was kind of the same thing.
That's my favorite film. I love The House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah. And okay, Halloween is my all-time favorite, like, slasher ever. I actually just went to Flashback Weekend and met the entire cast. The original.
Okay.
But I actually really liked Rob Zombie's.
Pictures. Well, you got the.
I met Nick Castle, the original Michael Myers, and he was amazing.
And you also met one of the female tertiary characters from the new one.
Yeah, Scout. She was Laurie Strode. Yeah, she was great too. And so, like, you know, I'm a diehard John Carpenter fan. I love everything that man does. But Rob Zombie's Halloween was actually, I was pleasantly surprised with.
And they played more onto the character and the reasoning of what makes Michael Myers Michael Myers, which I thought was brilliant.
It was a great idea.
Shot, like we talked about it in another podcast recently, about the shot of his room with all the masks.
Yeah.
Like, that was such great staging for that.
That and the moment I knew that movie was taking a turn that I didn't expect is I was watching it, and the part where he's leaving the school after he had been bullied in the bathroom.
Yes.
And he beats the shit out of that kid with the tree branch to death.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this movie is not messing around. Like, they're really going to show us some dark stuff here.
Yeah.
And then it's just going to go into the story we already know. And I thought it did it pretty well. I mean, obviously, Sherry Moon Zombie's not the best actress of all time, but she made it work in that movie, you know.
She did. And also, I will say this for Rob Zombie in the Halloween. In the first Halloween, he just kills his sister.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're left with that. And there's not enough reasoning behind it. But in this one, they built up the history of violence and built up the history of bullying and all that makes the character believable and real. Michael Myers, despite the fact you can't see his face in almost the entire film, has an emotional depth. Mm-hmm. And he's a three-dimensional character, which he wasn't before in the first one.
Right.
Which I thought was a really cool take on it. I mean, I would love to have seen that film without the Weinstein brothers' intervention and their editing, because I would love to see what Rob would have done.
Right.
And I think that's what we get to do here with Lords of Salem. He has full creative. This is his movie,
and that is like his biggest strength and his greatest weakness with this movie is that there is no one controlling his creativity. So he can literally make whatever movie he wants. But I think that the problem, especially with what I expected, is the way it was marketed. Definitely, depending on the movie, I will read up a lot on it before it comes out. with Rob Zombie, I'm like, okay, I've had a good relationship with him in the past, so this will be good.
He's a visual artist. Even when he was, when he was making White Zombie and his albums, there's a very heavy visual aspect from how he chooses to make the covers to the music videos he made for White Zombie and for his own single solo career. He's a very visual performer. And it does transfer over. That's why I got excited for these movies, because I want to see what he does. It's like watching a Tim Burton film. You know it's going to have a style to it, and there's going to be reasoning for it.
Exactly. And I remember seeing the first still in like late 2011, early 2012, and it was Sherry Moon with all the paint on her face and the dreads and sweater.
Yeah.
And it said, the headline with it said, first look at Rob Zombie's take on the Salem witch trials. And that was the first mistake anybody ever made in talking about this movie. It is not the Salem witch trials. And I was like, great, there's never been a big budget movie about the Salem witch trials. He has a great visual style. It's going to be creepy and gross and weird, but awesome. And, as we know now, that's a very small part of this movie, if anything.
The history, the touchstone of what leads to this.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was what got me excited, was like that first image of her, that headline. Then I saw the cast and Meg Foster from They Live, and she has those eyes that just are amazing. And
so just haunting.
Right. Like, what better person to play a witch? And Dee Wallace, who, she's always played nice people, so cool to see her in, a bad role.
I always but I like the ones who are, it's like the best thing about Lake Placid is Betty White. Knowing Betty White fed her husband to the alligator.
Exactly.
And you're like...
And she's okay with it.
Yeah. And that's a creepy moment where she's totally okay with this crocodile that's her baby killing things.
Right. It's just her way of life. Yeah. And let's see, who else was in that? Oh, I also got really excited because Sid Haig was cast in it and Michael Berryman, which they are Rob Zombie staples. Yes. But then they ended up not actually even being in the film.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems happened with how they had to be edited out.
Right.
A certain actor sadly passed away
while
they were shortly after finishing filming, and he wasn't exactly competent to be in the filming, and it caused a lot of problems, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And he wanted this one performer in there, and he filmed it with it, even though it was hard to do. So Richard Lynch, sad to say, passed away shortly, 2 months after before they even got finished editing. So it's... It makes a challenge, and you lost performances because they didn't have time. He just didn't have time to film there.
Right.
And that's the problem. I always like to take that into consideration with films, is you have to take into consideration how many people worked on it, how many people had to see it, how many people had to edit it. Aside from the problems that happened with the time that they had because of budgetary constrictions and actors, the rest falls on Rob.
Right.
And, I mean, that's the make or break part of this movie is Rob Zombie.
Right. And there was a horror convention I went to a couple years ago, not to get too off topic, where I actually met Sid Haig, and he is the sweetest, nicest guy ever. If you ever get a chance, I asked him.
A lot of people are. Robert Englund's really cool.
Yeah. I've met very few people that were not nice, so it's usually a good experience. And this was 4 or 5 months before Lords of Salem was supposed to come out. And I asked Sid Haig, I was like, so can we expect good things? Are you really excited about it? And he goes, oh, I know nothing about it. Yeah. I don't know anything about it. And I thought he was kind of bullshitting us, or just I can't talk about it kind of thing. Yeah. Nope, he actually knows nothing about it because he was not really even in it.
Rob did go to kind of extremes to keep people from spilling anything. He only gave people the script parts that they were in.
Right.
He wouldn't let them read the whole script, which I get.
Yeah.
Especially in the day of spoilers. And Rob's like, no, I want this to have a mystique about it.
Right.
But,
and it did.
He knew right away he was going to be cut.
Right.
It had to be.
That sucks. It's a shame, yeah.
It is. But there's plenty of reasons you looked forward to it. The cast is a really solid horror cast. There's some really cool, interesting takes. You were looking forward to Rob Zombie as his own,
right?
And your love for horror. So there's plenty of reasons you got excited about that.
And like I said, there's so few good horror movies that come out in theaters. So few horror movies, period. Let alone good ones. That when you see one that excites you, you're there right away and can't wait, It's not like the 80s anymore where they're constantly putting out slashers. It's not like that.
Replaced by superhero movies.
Exactly.
Which is kind of my heyday, except they don't do my films justice.
Right.
If they're DC.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I'm going to stop I'm not going to my producer's laughing because he's like, he's going to say it. He's going to say it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to make one episode where I don't cuss out the, it's screwed. Zack Snyder's a hack.
You can do it. We can take that tangent if you want. Yeah.
But no, we're not going to do this tangent. I don't want to do overly visual directors who don't understand story or characters, which is what Zack Snyder is.
Yep. I agree.
Because I want to ask you this question. Where does this movie hit it right for you? What do you like about this movie?
The cinematography is absolutely beautiful, and I will give him all the credit for that.
One of our last guests on the podcast, he commented on Rob Zombie's cinematography, and I thought, no, because Rob Zombie is aiming for an aesthetic. It might not be it's not the Academy Award-winning cinematography of like, God, what's a really great film that I could label off that I'm just blanking on right now?
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Great cinematography, classic cinematography, any of the Hitchcock stuff.
Obviously.
But that's not the aesthetic that Rob Zombie's aiming for.
Right.
He's aiming for the old schlock, the grindhouse style.
Exactly.
And on that, he hits pitch perfect in this movie. So, like, you love the cinematography. Is there a shot that you were just like, yes, this?
Every time, like, his wife... Heidi is in the hallway. With that, we see that apartment building from the outside. It's not that big of a building, but that hallway looks huge. Yeah, that hallway, like he made, like I thought, okay, this is going to be a claustrophobic movie because it's in this apartment building and like it's all taking place between these like 2 or 3 rooms. It didn't. It felt like a giant sprawling space.
Like the hallway. It reminds me of hallway shots in The Shining.
Yeah, exactly. It felt all of his cinematography felt very Kubrickian.
I think he makes a reference to it, to the Shining, like when he was interviewed about this movie. But yeah, I do love the cinematography of this, and I get what you're saying through it.
Then the parts where like she actually goes into the apartment, it's like this beautiful gold church. That felt very like Eyes Wide Shut, or even like, I'm going to butcher this name, Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Oh, okay.
Like Holy Mountain types. Like a lot of moments felt very like Holy Mountain.
Where he cuts in between those 2 segments where it's obviously 2 different sets.
Yeah.
But the editing is so smooth, you just feel the transition of just walking in. Yeah, I love, and the shots in the sets, that's where he, as an artist, gets a paintbrush and a sculptor. Like, he made these sets.
Right.
Really physical, and you felt the environment, and there's a tonality to it.
Yeah, the whole movie has a very unique atmosphere. And that was probably my favorite thing about it, is it feels like it could be anywhere in America, but at the same time, something feels just a little off. Almost like how David Lynch's towns, they could be any town in America, but at the same time, there's something weird to them. Like,
You're the second person today to mention David Lynch, and it makes me happy to love David Lynch movies.
Awesome.
But yeah, there's like rabbits. There's you're in this town, and I'm making a reference to something that will come out the week before this, but yeah, you're in this apartment, and it feels like it could be any apartment.
Right.
So the sounds are city sounds and things you can recognize, and this makes like a smaller town. It could be anywhere, and the tropes of the people in it are so recognizable.
Right. Like the nosy landlord downstairs and the shitty next door neighbor that's always slamming their door, and like once again, the timeline's really ambiguous. It kind of feels like it's the 70s, but at the same time, it could
be modern
era. Yeah, exactly.
You don't know.
Right. Yeah.
It has an almost timeless kind of quality to it, which I really like. And I like the story for the most part. And I like the character portrayals, because he does not shy away from the fact that many of the male characters in this are misogynistic, and they are horrible. And he doesn't play them up as cartoonish villains, and he doesn't romanticize anything about it. He just plays everything in it feels honest.
It's like the only thing is that to me, like, if you're going to consider it a horror film, which I don't really, it doesn't have enough. Like, there's scares there, but they don't seem to be a reason for them.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of things seem to happen for no reason in that movie. Or the scariest things that happened, she was just dreaming. Or was she dreaming? Is she high? You know, because then you find out she has a drug problem, and that kind of throws the whole thing into a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, how do we even know any of this is happening, you know?
Yeah, the confusion of what is real and what isn't real in this is I think, kind of dynamically played with, and I like it. And there's so much... Everything feels, and you start to feel for that person. Like, when she's suffering, and she suffers through this movie, and she doesn't know what's going on through this movie, and neither do you.
Right.
And I will say, I agree, it's not a horror movie.
No.
It's kind of a thriller. It's more just holding the suspense. It's holding the anticipation and the suspense.
Right.
But it's not a horror movie. It's not made for the scares. It's made for the atmosphere. It's made for that tension. It's made for you to follow this person's journey, this really painful journey.
Yeah. And some of the most interesting scenes I thought were like the flashback scenes to the witches of Salem. And those felt a lot like, you could tell what movies he had been watching recently. Like, that felt a lot like Mario Bava's Black Sunday to me. It just, with Rob Zombie color thrown on it, really.
I never would have thought about that.
Like, there was one part especially where, like, the girl's, like, in this, like, iron contraption. I was like, oh, my God, they're going to bash her face in with a hammer and a mask.
Yeah.
And,
Holy shit, that's a cool thought.
Yeah, and I know he knows his stuff. I know he knows his horror movies. So anything that happens like that is on purpose. It's never on accident.
Yeah.
Like, he takes his references and runs with it. So
yeah, there was a reference to a movie a movie with inside the movie that is basically a Hammer film.
Right.
Which I thought was like, because I love the Hammer horror films.
Oh, me too.
And I love the old Universal monster. Like,
me too.
Creature of the Black Lagoon is my favorite.
That's awesome.
Monster movie.
I think I'm tied between, I like Bride of Frankenstein a lot. Nice. I love that one. And Wolfman. Wolfman's another one of my favorites.
I'm just going to ask a tertiary question. How do you feel about the Wolfman remake with Benicio del Toro?
The transformation scene was cool. The rest of it was whatever. Well, I could take it or leave it. The
transformation scene is cool, though.
Yeah, I mean, they have so much more technology now to make it look so cool.
And they did makeup.
Right.
And like, they did a seamless transition with him, which I thought was so smart. Right. The American Werewolf in Paris.
Exactly. Which
is my favorite werewolf movie.
That's a great one. I think Dog Soldiers might actually edge that one out a little bit more for me.
I've never heard anyone say that is their favorite werewolf
movie. Love it. I love it. It's like Predator, but with werewolves, It's the same thing, essentially, but I like that you don't actually see them until the very end. You just see a claw or you see an eye.
Steven Spielberg. They jaws it, which I think is fantastic. People got mad at Godzilla for doing that, and I was like, you're stupid. You don't understand storytelling.
Right.
I just want to watch Godzilla break things for 2.5 hours.
Then that's it.
Fucking stupid.
Go watch Man of Steel. Ugh. All he does is break things. I need to save the city, but I'll level it first.
Oh, thank you. It's not super. That's not a Superman film.
Right.
That movie just upsets me to my core.
I understand. Plus, Dog Soldiers has that awesome scene where the guy gets his stomach cut open and they glue his intestines back in and tape them back up with duct tape. Like that, stuff like that. Little things are what really
so painful. Like
and it's a really long scene.
He has to suffer with it.
Yeah, for the rest of the movie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. But they're like what, Marines or something, or the Scottish equivalent of Marines. Yeah. On a training mission. Of course, it goes wrong.
Oh yeah. It wouldn't be a horror film. It's like a science fiction film. It wouldn't be cool if the technology just worked perfectly.
Right.
Something fucked up has to happen.
Right.
To it. There has to be a consequence to man playing God.
Right.
Or man playing soldier or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. So, we love the shots?
Yes, love the shots.
I actually like the casting in this movie a lot.
The casting is great.
I think this is his wife's best performance.
I think so, too.
Ever.
I definitely think so. Ken Foree was a great choice too. He's kind of like horror. People really know him obviously from Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
And he's great. I met him at a convention a while ago too. He was really nice. Plus, he's a Rob Zombie staple too. Like, he had the infamous "I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch" in the original Halloween. How Michael Myers got his jumpsuit. So. Rob Zombie definitely likes to stick with his people, but they always usually work out for him for the most part.
I just remembered that scene.
Yeah, and I actually saw like an interview with Rob Zombie about why they put that in there, because a lot of people thought it was unnecessary and stupid. And he was like, well, Michael Myers is a big guy. He's not going to happen across a jumpsuit that fits him, just like happenstance.
It's totally the Terminator moment.
Yeah, he needed to find a jumpsuit that fit him, strangle a trucker on the toilet. Why not,
Also, that line. Like, he adds levity in things.
Oh, totally.
Which this movie is a little devoid of, which plays to the atmosphere and the story they're telling.
Right. I think Ken Foree was a little underused in this one, I think. I think he was mostly just like, well, we need a third DJ. I got a friend. He'll do it, kind of thing. He didn't really have much to do in the movie.
Yeah. But mostly it focuses on either the witches. It's always Sherry Moon Zombie.
Oh, yeah, always.
Bruce Davidson's role as Francis... He's in this, because he's the main male lead. He's the guy trying to figure this out, trying to explain to her what's happening, and not just to her, but to us.
Right.
Like, he's a historian, and he's actively teaching us what's going on in this movie.
Exactly. And that's my one issue with this movie, too. I could have used a little bit more exposition from him, mostly. I think a little bit more exposition, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat him to death with a frying pan, so it's like...
they beat him to death brutally.
Which was a little comical, like...
I think it served the point of, like, you want more exposition, but so does she.
That's true.
And I think that's the point in that, is that he is looking to give her the answers she's looking for, and before he can do it, they beat the shit out of him and kill him.
Right. That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about it from that angle before. But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, she never really gets what she wants from anything or anyone. So,
and by the time that it's happening, she's so far gone, she can't even muster up the energy to do anything about it.
Right, right. Yeah.
There's too much silence. Podcast, audible. But yeah, so there's obviously a lot of stuff to love about this. The artwork is great. It's Rob Zombie. Mm-hmm. It feels like this is what he painted. It feels... Rob Zombie has that big Freudian thing where he believes that all the characters are himself. So it's a really big introspective thing about, like, the duality of his personality. Because he is... his lead's female. And he really cares about this female character.
Right.
But there are misogynistic characters who are unapologetically and monstrously misogynist.
Right.
But an honest misogynist, like the other DJs, there are misogynists.
Right.
And that affects how she moves on in this movie. And it also affected what happened to the witches in the past.
Exactly.
So there's something about him that's like, it's a duality. He understands, like, the inherent misogyny in himself based on, like, white male privilege.
Right.
But also feels for the compassion of the female protagonist. And actually, at the end, you kind of understand what she's giving herself into, which is this big vengeance play that's taken hundreds of years.
Right, exactly.
And I like all that.
Yeah, and that final scene was definitely, like, the most jarring part of the movie.
Oh my God! The creature on all the corpses.
Yeah, all the corpses at the end. I think that was probably the most shocking thing, was just how disgusting all the corpses looked, just like piled on the stage, and that was great.
And they had done that to themselves. Like this sound had made these women destroy themselves as an altar. Right.
Yeah, the end scene was good. This journey to get there was a little more wayward than I would have liked, I think. And like I said, it's just the scares too. There was no scares there. There was tension,
the scares,
right?
Yeah.
And there was tension, but it didn't break till really that final scene. And by then you were just like, get it over with already, you know? So
okay, well, there we go. That's the next question. Is, of course, why didn't this film work for you?
It didn't. Like I said, the suspense never paid off till the end. He could have had little moments here and there of payoff.
I don't know if it even pays off in the end, because if the suspense paid off in the end, it would be forgivable, that tension buildup.
Right.
But there's something so kind of anticlimactic about her submission into the...
Right. Right. And, like, the scene at the very, very end with, like, her happy with her dog, Rob Zombie said that was just, like, a juxtaposition to show how far she had fallen. And I was like, well, we get that. We saw her whole journey. Like, we don't need to be reminded of how she started and how she ended. Like, we just want to know why it happened, you know? Yeah. We don't need to be reminded.
There's a lot of no questions answered.
Yeah. And
for the suspense.
That doesn't always bother me.
No.
But... in this case, it really did.
If it served a purpose, it wouldn't bother me. But this doesn't serve a purpose. It didn't build up. There's no sequel.
No.
There's no anything. It's just, this is how this ends.
And there's, like, a companion book that a lot of people say explains a lot more, but I shouldn't have to go read a book to figure out the movie. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that wants to be supplemental and additional stuff, that's awesome. But I shouldn't have to read a novel to understand what I just watched.
Yeah, the novel should be another story that adds to the universe, but you can understand the concept of the universe. It's like, I get in the fight with people about the Harry Potter films because they always say, oh, the Harry Potter films suck, the books are so much better. I'm like, well, the books can be better because you can delve into the world more.
Exactly.
But these movies still, like, there's nothing wrong with the movies. In the time allotted, they tell the stories, and they get the characterization of the characters right.
Right.
So the heart of what makes those books great is still there.
Right.
Molly Weasley's still an amazing mother.
Right.
Harry's still a hero, an unfortunate hero, and suffers great amount of loss. Ron is still a stalwart friend who compares himself to both his brothers and his friend. And Hermione is an upright feminist who really is the crux by which all their friendships hold still.
Exactly.
And she's the reason they figure out how to solve everything. Mm-hmm. They never would have grasped the concept of what Dumbledore was saying about the Horcruxes. And he's bottle feeding Harry the whole time.
Exactly.
And she's like, no, this is what we're going to have to do.
Right.
And she's the driving force. And all those things are still there in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the great thing about, like, that's the problem that we bring up that you brought up with this movie is if you have to read a book that is the same story but with a different ending what he originally intended to film because of the things, then he didn't find a way to edit or finish the film that made sense.
Right. Exactly. And I don't know what they were expecting from people. I saw another interview with him shortly after they first showed it at their first film festival, and they had a Q&A with the audience afterwards, and basically people were just asking him to explain the movie, and he was really frustrated by that, and I guess Sherry Moon actually stormed out and everything. And, I mean, but they also create things in a vacuum. Yeah. It's only them.
Well, that's the other thing.
You know,
with him being in full creative control,
yeah.
they were in a vacuum. They're in this bubble of his consciousness. And of course he understands what's going on.
Right.
It's his brain.
Yeah.
But part of the idea of an auteur is not only can he express and he makes his vision possible, he knows how to communicate that to other people.
Right. Exactly. And it worked for him with his previous movies. Yes. This one, and I like to see that he's maturing as a director and trying different things. That's always exciting.
How he wrote her character.
Yeah.
Sherry Moon Frye's character in this movie is much better.
Right.
And her performance is fantastically leaps and bounds better than what she did in the previous films.
Mm-hmm.
In
Definitely.
the Halloween films. And I'm not saying anything bad about her performances in the Halloween films.
I thought it was shaky.
Yeah. Well, she's a convincing mother, but there's problems with how the character is written and the flaws in scripting.
Yeah.
Dialogue, really.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, They need someone to control their creativity, but not like a studio. They need another producer or somebody to be like
a co-writer. They need someone to be like, okay, but where are we going?
Yeah,
with this?
Exactly. Like that sounds cool. That sounds great, but how's you're going to show this to people, right? Like this isn't just for you.
Yeah.
Which I mean, he didn't make Lords of Salem to make like a blockbuster hit with a bunch of money. That
he made something that he wanted to see, and I get that. Like the auteur idea, he put his idea, and I love that he's unapologetic for it.
Yeah, that's good for him. Yeah,
and I love that kind of creativity. Yeah. But it's unfair for him to get mad at an audience for not understanding something he doesn't speak clearly on.
Exactly. And it was a movie I followed for years, and when it got Sundance release and other festival releases, and then I finally got the theatrical nationwide release. I was there opening night. There was 8 other people in the theater, and I just kept saying, it's gonna turn around, he'll do it. I won't leave a movie if I've paid for it. I'm there to get my time out of it.
Yeah.
And
you go into a movie wanting to like it.
Yeah, exactly. And I left feeling really disappointed just because I had such different expectations for it. And it wasn't a terrible movie. It wasn't a bad movie. Everyone should watch it at least once, I think. But watch it. Go in not...
I really enjoyed it.
Go in not having an opinion at all.
So one of the things... Well, there we go. Because then it's how we fix this. How do we fix this? And I think some of it... You touched on it when you talked about getting excited about it. And it's something I touch on with a lot of films. And it's this idea of advertisers.
Yes.
And sometimes big budget movies, the Transformers movies majorly, they make amazing trailers.
Yes.
Where they use some of the best stuff in it, and they just kill that's that moment from the trailer. Where's the rest of this movie?
Right.
And you're supposed to tease. And this movie misdirected with the trailer.
Oh, definitely. It was a huge misdirection. I don't really remember a whole lot about the trailer because I had been following it so much at that point. Anyways, I'd seen all the stills from the set. But I remember that the trailer seemed to hop around a lot. And you were like, okay, this looks like a bunch of cool things, but...
How do you tie them together?
What do they have to do with each other?
So...
How would I fix it?
How would you fix this?
I would definitely have a little bit more exposition, and which is bizarre because I'm not a fan of exposition in movies at all. I really like to figure things out.
Exposition done right is great.
Yeah.
But when it's just a character telling you a story to the other character, that can be terrible. I like how they did it in this one with the historian.
Yeah.
And the cutscenes.
Right.
But yeah, exposition, you can walk a really fine line.
Right. Maybe if it would have been a little bit more linear in its exposition, it might have helped it. Not necessarily even change it, just make it a little bit more linear. It might have helped. It seemed like there was a lot of backtracking in this movie.
Yeah.
And, I'm one of those people that, I go to a theater, I see a movie that's really, cerebral and makes you think, and I love that. Whereas, I think Interstellar is a good example. A lot of people didn't like it because they really didn't understand what was going on. I think if something's over their head,
shit in space.
Yeah, and
they got a story that actually wanted them to think about things.
Yes, and America doesn't like that.
No, that was the art of film, is you were supposed to challenge people. And now art doesn't challenge people, and that bothers me.
Yeah, exactly, and that movie still made a bunch of money, but people still, I didn't like it. I didn't get what was going on, and it was too long, and but they're getting you to think about something instead of watching robots beat the shit out of each other. Like, you know.
Robots, I can't tell who's on what side.
Right.
Beating the shit out of each other.
You can't even see what's happening. It's just a mass of CGI and shit, you know? Yeah. And then a pretty girl thrown in every once in a while to hold your attention, you know? Like,
thank you for just calling out Michael Bay.
Yeah. I think everybody, could pick up on that at that point. Yeah, no, I he's at the top of my hate list, definitely.
Zack Snyder's at the top. Michael Bay is really close.
Yeah. Michael Bay just needs to put out like 2 more really terrible films, maybe jump on the superhero franchise, then he'll...
No, damn it. Don't say that.
I put it in the universe now. Yeah, I put it out into the universe. Now it's going to happen.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean,
That is a terrifying thought.
Right, isn't it? Like...
But but the thing is, Michael Bay has made films before he got Transformers that were okay.
Yeah.
And it was more about characters, and now I'll just do this and pretty shit and blow up, and it's not even pretty anymore. It's just...
No, it's not. It's not.
That's happening.
Right. Oh, man, I could talk forever about everything wrong with all the Transformers movies. Forever. But...
It's okay, we can bring you back on.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, man. Yeah. And that's the worst, is going into one of those movies and, like... You don't have expectations, but if you go into a Michael Bay movie and you have no expectations and you're still disappointed, what is that movie, what is that movie trying to achieve, and what's it going to achieve? Dollars? That's it, but because they have your money already, so...
So, a little more exposition.
Yeah, a little more exposition. I think...
You said telling the story linearly, but... Do you want the exposition linear, or do you still want it to come from the historian so we can still be in the dark like our protagonist is?
I guess because that's a good point.
in the dark, and you're supposed to identify with her. And I think in this movie you really do go along with her, and you're with her on that journey, which I think is a great narration by Rob Zombie. I think the finish lacks because there's less exposition than probably necessary. And I think if the character understood what was going on, then we would.
Right.
And
I guess the flashback scenes I would like a little bit more linear. Like, instead of cutting back to those constantly, if he would just thrown that all at the beginning, like maybe a 20-minute scene at the beginning of all the history and then gone to all the historian stuff. Okay. Then we would have been like, oh, he's talking about these bitches back in the day, you know? And that, and at the end, a little bit of exposition. If you have to put text on the screen explaining what you just saw... You're missing something. Yeah, you're missing something. So a little bit more exposition at the end. And you only had the voiceover on the radio with like, oh, she's gone missing and there was a mass suicide. But that's how the modern day's perceiving it. Yeah. That's not what actually happened.
Also, we understand that that's what's going to happen.
Right.
But we don't know what's going to happen to that character. And I kind of like the openness of that.
Right.
But we don't have anything to go on. We don't know what she did with this demon child. Like, she could have just lived in the suburbs with a demon.
Did the devil... Okay, that was actually supposed to be Satan, the thing that looked like a baby. That was supposed to be Satan.
Or the Antichrist?
It was... Rob Zombie said he didn't want like a goat horn Satan, so he did the baby. And to me, it looked like the mandrakes in Harry Potter. And so I immediately took all serious out of the situation. Well, especially when it shot its like vine arms out at her. I was like, oh, come on. Like, this is the best you could come up with? Like... Yeah,
and you're an artist for demonic things.
Yeah. Like, this is what you do all the time.
I've seen Hillbilly Deluxe's cover art.
Yeah. It's like, it just, once I made that connection, I couldn't take that thing seriously at all. That and the priests and the dildos at the end, I was like... Yeah,
the red dildo scene was really creepy.
Right.
I think that was kind of the point, but...
I think it was just meant to, like, throw you off. I think that's all it served. And that reminded me, too, of, like El Topo or the Holy Mountain, just like a weird thing to throw you off.
It's so different than that earlier scene with the bishop, like, where she goes in and then she's being molested by the bishop.
Yeah.
Like, that scene is so much more...
And that's when I really sympathized with her. Yeah. That scene really made me like, oh, God, I'm going to have to watch horrible things happen to this woman for the rest of the movie.
And then it's almost comic when the priest scene happens.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You gotta take that out.
Right. And just why? Like, other than for shock value.
Yeah.
Let's say it's for shock value, but
even, accomplishing with a bunch of fake dicks.
Yeah, and then her, like, riding on the goat, and that guy that looks like he could be a backup, like, guitar player for Rob Zombie dancing with her in the goat. It's like...
I think that's
probably...
Beelzebub.
Gotcha, okay.
Credits. So that's actually the demon.
And see, that's a kind of disappointing representation as well, yeah.
I think it's the combination of the goat and him, or the representation of the devil.
Gotcha.
In the hooved is normally, cloven hooved is the devil often. So we gotta streamline some of this stuff.
Okay.
And lead to a finish is what I think you're saying.
Yes, streamline it, lead to a finish. Obviously, in a perfect world, I would like more Sid Haig, and I would bring on Bill Moseley. I would bring on Michael Berryman. I would bring on all the Rob Zombie staples and give them bigger roles.
Moseley, I think could. I hate to say this, but our gentleman who passed, he could have been supplanted by someone like Bill Moseley in the scene.
Well, even like Bruce Davison's character, I think Bill Moseley could have done really well. Even Bruce Davison did great, but I mean, Rob Zombie fans know all those faces and all those names.
Well, I wonder, because you know what happened? The gentleman who passed away, he was supposed to be he's a part of those early scenes from the Salem stuff. Yeah. So when Richard Lynch can't complete everything, they have to cut all those scenes. They lose a lot of the exposition you probably would have gotten. Exactly. And I think maybe if he had the budget to film again and he would have recast someone in that role, they could have, some of the problems could have been fixed. Right. And that was another thing they promoted the movie a lot. There was a lot of articles first look at Lords of Salem, and it was Sid Haig on set. Yeah. So when you take that out, that was a big thing too. He's don't really right. Yeah, and he looked really cool. Looked like a cool shot, but it's not in the movie. No, it's not. And I remember after I saw the movie, I Googled, where was Sid Haig in Lords of Salem? Because I was, looking for him the whole time. Oh, he wasn't. So, yeah, I would have definitely brought back a lot of those regulars. And, I can't remember her name. It's Leslie something, Mama Firefly. I would have brought her into it. I would have brought, any of the Rob Zombie staples. Yeah. Meg Foster, I would have given her a lot more time. Brought her into it some more. I think she suffers from the following, just the lead character, because we do stick so close to Heidi in this movie, which I like because that's who you're supposed to identify with. Right. But I think you miss out on some of the performances you could have gotten. Exactly. I agree. Yeah, a little bit. I get we're supposed to identify her and be her, but a little time away from her would have helped. I think too, just a little bit more. I could totally see this working out. Yeah. Well, damn, we've been having fun. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it too. Thank you for having me. Michaela, do you have anything you want to promote? Are you on Twitter? Or are you on the whole nine? I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. You can just add me though. Facebook.com/Michaela Tyson. And then I am on Instagram. I post a lot more horror related stuff on there. Cool. You can just search my name and I'll come up as well. I'm also in Behind the Reel, the same Facebook group that Zach is in. Zach mostly posts in there. That's not for you people. That's for me. But I'm trying to get in there more. So definitely. I would love to hear more discussions. I would love to have you on the podcast again. I'd love to come back. We will definitely post links to your Instagram, the whole nine. All right. In the comments below. And of course, for I Want to Like This, I'm Thomas Sinclair. You can find I Want to Like This and us here on Facebook, I Want to Like This, and on Twitter at I Want to Like This. Again, I can always be found as the T Sinclair on Facebook and the Thomas Sinclair. No, wait, strike that, reverse that. The T Sinclair on Twitter and the Thomas Sinclair on Facebook. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you. There you have it. Episode 19. I didn't think I was going to have that much fun talking about a Rob Zombie film, frankly, because most of the time it's just people who like aesthetics and don't always get stories. And Michaela's real concern with this was the story. And that's a fun conversation to have. When someone doesn't like it because it's not as pretty as they want, it's disappointing. And when someone doesn't like it because there's just something missing. And exposition was missing. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. You heard the tags, you know the shilling. Comment if you have something to say about this film. If you love this film, let us know. If you hate this film, you hate Rob Zombie, let us know. All opinions are valid as long as you're not a jerk. I openly welcome open discourse. I hope you have a great day. I hope that you watch a film. I hope you find something you actually like. But until then, and if you do get disappointed, let us know. This is I Want to Like This. Have a good day.